Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer Territory podcast. This is episode 200. Yes, episode 200. I am your host, Brad Rowland, on a Sunday evening, a pretty jovial Sunday evening, and I am joined, as I always am, by Scott Coleman. Scott, how are we feeling? 200 episodes, a couple of Braves wins, one not so great Braves loss, but hey, an upbeat weekend, and the Braves are over 500.
Hello, Brad. I was thinking about it just before we started recording. Is this the most positive the vibes have been all season long? Other than maybe opening day, because hope springs eternal and we didn't know what was right around the corner on opening day. But for me, anyway, this is probably the most upbeat and optimistic I've been about this team all season long, and a really nice series in Boston this weekend.
I think you're right on that. I think that would not have been the case if we recorded 24 hours ago. That's probably safe to say after Saturday's game. But taking a half step back and like we like to do on this show, being a little bit more not prisoner of the moment. Yeah, I mean, number one, they're over 500 for the second time, I suppose, but first time that we've done a podcast together in the green, so to speak. And they've also been playing really well for a while now. Like, they went 5-2 this week with 2 series victories. That's just series victory after series victory. They could have been 7-0 this week fairly easily. They blew leads at both losses. Obviously, those are more frustrating, but it's also a good sign that you're leading, like you're playing better for most of the game. They've also won 7 of the last 9 series. They're 19-10 the last 29 games. Like, the Braves are playing good baseball. They're playing at 100-plus win pace for about a month plus now. And that's usually a good sign. So I think we are justified in our vibes being up. Doesn't mean that everything is going perfectly, but certainly we have to feel better. I think you'd be crazy not to feel better than you did a few weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely. And the Braves have done a good job of keeping their head above water after that very poor start. And they're in a position to be in position now that they have 2 superstars, presumably right around the corner with Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuña Jr. We're going to talk about both of them a little bit later in the show. But sure, have there been moments of frustration? God knows there have been. But you mentioned winning 7 out of 9 series in a 100-win pace. That's really, really good, Captain Obvious. And I think there's reasons for optimism after the offense has really woken up the last couple of games. Pitching staff should be getting better, especially with some reinforcements on the way. And then if Ronald Acuña Jr. is even a shell of the player that we know he can be, and this team is going to be even better on paper than what it's been. And if they've been a 100-win team, or at least a pace of 100 wins over the last 6 weeks, there's obviously something you can work with there.
Back when we used to do a podcast that was a little bit more weekly, like we did like a whole week breakdown when we did podcasts, sometimes we would be talking a lot more about like a week sample. And in an effort to not do that necessarily, this week, the last 7 days, when they played 7 games in a row, they played 17 games in a row, actually. But the offense has decided to wake up, and that's what we're all waiting on. And they've been pretty darn good on offense now for a little while. They've scored 38 runs in the last 7 games. Yeah, that includes 10 today. But even before that, they scored 28 runs in 6 games. That's like almost 5 per game. You'll kind of take that. And they have 16 extra base hits in those 7 games, OPS over 800. Like, they're not 2023 Atlanta Braves right now. Like, no one's saying that. But they're looking like a top-tier offense suddenly for a little while. And again, we have to see it for longer. But with Ozuna looking like Ozuna, Drake Baldwin has been preposterous. Olsen and Murphy had great weekends. Like, a lot has gone better for the offense. And, like, hey, speaking of Captain Obvious, when you score more runs, your pitching staffs have been pitching well all season long, honestly, for the most part. That's the thing we've all been saying for weeks and weeks now is the offense is like, okay, the upside of his team is the offense coming alive. And we've now seen what happens when the offense comes alive.
Well, and hopefully the offense can continue the work it did, especially this weekend in Boston, because I think it's fair to say that we cannot expect this starting rotation to be pretty close to perfect as it has been in recent memory. I think the broadcast said today that Schwellenbach worked into the 6th inning, and it was like the 15th straight time a Braves starting pitcher has covered 6 innings. That's crazy. And that generally means that every single night the rotation is giving the Braves a chance to win. Now, of course, if they continue to score, it's not going to seemingly have to hold on by the skin of our teeth every single night. Hopefully, it will take some of the pressure off of the bullpen, which is seemingly having to be pretty close to perfect every night, and just kind of give everybody some breathing room. And if the offense can keep firing and the pitching continues to be better, especially with Strider in the mix now, and maybe Craig Kimbrell coming up at some point soon, it's only going to help the bullpen and the rotation. And I think then you can start to be greedy and say, okay, let's go on a stretch here. Even though the Braves have been playing better lately, let's win 8 out of 10. Let's
Yeah.
win 10 out of 13 and really distance yourself from that 500 mark and start making some ground on the Phillies and the Mets, who have had really nice starts to the season.
I'm with you all the way. And, it's easy to get lost sometimes, especially in a close loss or you blow a lead and the focus becomes on what happened at the end of that game. Like we'll talk about later on. The bullpen, look, we were skeptical of the bullpen coming into the season. And it's worth noting the bullpen's not been bad on the whole. They're actually kind of been league average this season. But that was the area we kind of expected to. But how are you not in close games? By scoring a bunch of runs and breaking games open, taking chances of opportunities. You have to score runs, and we'll come back to it, I'm sure, on this show. But it's not a coincidence. Like it's a lot breezier for your bullpen. It's a lot breezier for your starters, even when you actually have room on the scoreboard.
Definitely. I mean, scoring cures all in all sports, not just baseball, right? But you can have a terrible defense in football or basketball or hockey or soccer or whatever sport. But if you're scoring, it kind of cures all woes, just like winning cures all woes. So I think you have to be encouraged by what you've seen. Of course, there are still things we're going to talk about tonight that make us bang our heads against the table. But if you haven't caught on to the first handful of minutes of the show, the vibes are positive. We feel good about where the team is right now, especially if they're about to get a real infusion of talent into that roster, really any day at this point.
That is a professional segue from my friend Scott Coleman, because we're going to be talking now for a minute about the guys who are coming back. And look, under most circumstances, we probably just dive into the games this weekend. But when arguably your best position player and your best pitcher, if not one of your best pitchers at the very minimum, are coming back, it becomes, look, this is a national story. When Strider and Acuna are getting close, it becomes a national front page story. And it is for us, obviously, as well. So Ronald Acuña, if people haven't been following us along, he's been playing Gwinnett this weekend. He didn't play today, took a planned day off, no issues there. He had a massive home run on Saturday night, looks good. He DH'd a little bit, played some right field over the weekend. No one has said when he's coming back, but the buzz has pointed to potentially as soon as this week. And it stands to reason, as we discussed a little bit earlier this week, Ronnie probably doesn't want to be chilling in the minors for too long with how he looks. So I think people are anticipating sooner rather than later a former MVP come back to the lineup. And like everything we've seen so far looks pretty good to me.
Oh, it looks great. And if folks missed it on Saturday night, Ronald Acuña Jr. had a 420-foot home run to dead center field. I don't know how he hit that ball 420.
Being a freak that he is, basically, yes.
He's incredible. And Ronald looks like he's in fantastic shape. There was a clip of him in some really short shorts. And I mean, he has quads for days. He must work out with Spencer Strider because he has huge quads. You would never know that he hasn't played a real major league game, at least in a calendar year. Hit a ball 420, had 4 walks. I don't believe in any of his rehab games, and there's been 4 of them. I don't think Acuna has struck out one time. And obviously, you have to consider the talent level and the opposing pitching, but offensively, Ronald looks ready. Obviously, the more he sees live pitching, it's only going to help. But if Game 7 of the World Series was tomorrow, I would confidently put Ronald at the top of the lineup based on his pedigree and how he's looked. Obviously, it's not Game 7 of the World Series tomorrow. The Braves probably want to see Ronald play a full 9 innings defensively, trying to go through everything, maybe be challenged in the outfield a little bit more just to kind of get that under him. But, I mean, everything we have seen from Gwinnett is encouraging, and I would imagine maybe within some point in the next week, we'll see Ronald Acuña Jr. back with the Braves.
Yeah, Mark Bowman floated Friday as the Braves would return home. Maybe he could debut at Truist Park. That would make some logical sense, potentially. I'm not saying it's got to even be that long. It could be before that. We just don't know. But yeah, pretty soon. And I have a funny stat. It's only a handful of plate appearances, like you said. But he has an OPS of 1,917 right now at Gwinnett. Granted, that's 6 walks in 12 plate appearances. Like no one wants to pitch to him. When they do, he just smashes the ball out of the ballpark. But he looks, and this is Gwinnett. This is not single A. Like you're facing some professional baseball players at AAA. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. So he's looking good, and everyone's just excited. I'm just excited. I don't know about everybody else. I'm just fired up to see Ronnie at the big league level. Obviously, his presence, we've covered this ad nauseum. We have to do it again now. Just makes everybody look better, makes the lineup look better. I don't know how much he's going to run when he comes back. That's a question we can tackle when he actually comes back. But his bat at the top of the lineup, it's just an infusion for everybody.
You know, it's funny. I was watching one of the games this weekend, and the Braves were in a big spot, and it was Nick Allen batting ninth, and I think Allen did fine. But then it was Alex Verdugo leading off. And I don't want to take shots at Verdugo because, frankly, he's given the Braves just what they needed at leadoff, even if it hasn't been anything otherworldly. But, man, it's going to be so much fun to have Ronald Acuña in that leadoff spot, turn the lineup over, and then you have Acuna. Hopefully Riley gets going. Matt Olson had signs of life this weekend. Marcelo Zuna, whatever catcher the Braves throw out there, seemingly goes 2 for 5 with a homer. I mean, you know, you can tell yourself a really fun story, even if the offense has been painful at times the first 2 months of the season. Acuna just does so much at the top, from his plate discipline, his on base, his speed, his power. It's going to be a lot of fun once Ronald gets in there.
I think a lot of the pain that we experienced covering this team day to day last year would have been mitigated if Ronald had been playing. That's probably fair to say. And I think that will be the case this year when he comes back. And you just, of course, everybody's hoping for health for Ronnie, but it could be as soon as this week he's on the baseball field at the major league level. And we're all excited to see that. Similarly, Spencer Strider, who also, you know, we made a lot of this heading into last year. The Braves had the preseason MVP frontrunner in the betting market and the Cy Young frontrunner in the betting market. And it was Acuna Strider. They both basically were zeros last year because of injury. Strider, it seems like no one has said this officially. I'll give a little bit of a caveat now, but everyone is assuming he's pitching on Tuesday. I mean, everyone's pointing to that. The Braves have a TBA listed in the pitching probables on Tuesday, and they already announced Wednesday and Thursday starters. They're not really hiding it as much as they maybe would. It seems like Strider is going to be pitching in a major league game as we're recording this Sunday night. The next time the Braves play, it's probably Strider on the mound, and that's pretty fun too.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce Elder's spot was set for Tuesday, and they sent Dylan Dodd back down to Gwinnett for an open roster spot. So yes, it would be a shock. The Braves are always a little coy about this stuff, but I don't know. It's not like they would get in trouble if Strider couldn't pitch on Tuesday for some reason. But
no, they're not shielding it. All the beat guys. Yeah. Everyone's tiptoeing straight all the way to the line. Like no one's saying it is definitely going to be Strider on Tuesday, but every single piece of anecdotal evidence is he's going to go on Tuesday.
Yeah, and when Strider gets out there, we'll have to, of course, keep an eye on his overall health, that hamstring. I think it's going to be, about 4 weeks that Strider ended up missing from the time of that original hamstring pull to when he's going to be on the mound, and the elbow too. We don't want to overlook the surgically repaired elbow, but hey, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. It did give Spencer some more time to distance himself from the elbow surgery, and let's hope Spencer goes out there. The stuff is crisp because it was pretty good. I thought Spencer's stuff was pretty good in that one start against the Blue Jays. But we know what this guy's ceiling is when he's feeling good and when he is healthy out there.
Yeah, and I think it's like a day or two short of 5 weeks since he last pitched in that one outing. I was trying to do the math on the fly while we were talking. I think it's just over a month. So basically about 33 days, whatever it's going to be. And all looking forward to that. We'll preview it maybe a little bit later and also talk about it after. Go ahead if you have anything else on Strider.
I was just going to say, and this just hit me. Maybe the Braves had conversations in the spring about how they are going to manage Spencer's innings this season, especially coming off the elbow surgery. By default, the fact that he will basically be making his second start of the year on May 20th, that's now kind of built in. And obviously we're putting the cart before the horse. Spencer needs to be healthy for the next 4 or 5 months, but that is a small victory of him missing time. And the Braves were able to weather the storm thanks to guys like Elder and Smith-Shawver really stepping up once Strider went down again.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to everyone who's filled in. The Braves have done a really good job with starting pitching, as we talked about. But it'll be nice to have a Cy Young potential guy back in the mix as soon as Tuesday. All right, Scott, that's our little preamble. We're excited about Ronnie. We're excited about Spencer. We're excited about the way they're playing overall. We do owe the people some deep dives into these games over the weekend. First, though, a word from our partners on the podcast.
FT fam, let's talk about the HOF app. If you're into parlays, but sometimes you're missing the mark more than you would like to, can I introduce you to some serious analytics on an app that is easy to read and comprehend? And I'm sitting next to a man who knows how to place a parlay.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is breaking down a parlay with this Hall of Fame app. There's the situations that you'll find easier to do. It's very helpful and understanding. And if you like, gambling, sometimes this is really good to know. So get on there, get on that Hall of Fame app and check it out.
Yeah, this is info that will help you, okay? With a 4.9 rating in the App Store and over 6,000 five-star reviews, safe to say that HOF has already helped a lot of people bet smarter. For a limited time only, FT listeners can get a 7-day free trial and 50% off their first month when they use code FOUL at checkout. Download the HOF app on iOS or Android. Enter code FOUL and you're all set.
Okay, Scott, let's dive into these games a little bit over the weekend. First of all, we should plug our most recent episode. Sean and Steven talked on Thursday evening. Always listen and download all of our episodes, whether you have listened to them or not, or maybe you're backlogged or whatever. It's always a little bit better for us if you just smash the download button or the click button, whatever you want to do, and listen to those shows as well. I encourage you to listen to every episode of the podcast. But we have not had a show on the feed since Thursday. So here we are, 3 games to cover. Friday was interesting in that it was pretty highly anticipated, I would say, coming into the game. It was a battle of the Titans with Chris Sale and Garrett Crochet, 2 of the, 15 best pitchers in the league, maybe even better than that. Fenway Park, the return of Sale to Boston for the first time since he was traded from Boston to Atlanta. Lots of storylines, and while it was good for us that the Braves won the game, it was also a genuinely awesome pitchers duel for a lot of the night.
Yeah, I mean, the pitching matchup lived up to the hype. And Chris Sale, oh, baby. Chris Sale was capital letters Chris Sale on Friday night. And it's funny, I think the first 4 pitches of the game, Sale was nowhere near the strike zone.
Yeah.
And clearly he was amped up to be back in a place where he had so many memories, both good and bad. But Sale, I mean, he just looks so good right now. And I think we all knew, even if the first handful of starts were not the greatest on a results basis, he looks like Chris Sale from a year ago. His stats for the full season are not that far off from where they were when he won Cy Young last year, other than the wins number. And just the eyeball test tells you that Sale looks great and has very much found himself after a slower than expected start to the year.
It's crazy because we've been talking about this, and every once in a while we'll get accused of being either too negative or too positive about something, which is fine. That means you're doing it right. We try to be accused of both sides of that item. But with Sale, it was one of those things where early in the year the numbers were bad. The ERA was bad, and we were kind of just saying, hey, he's getting bad up to death a little bit. Like, he wasn't as crisp as he probably has been in the past. He also had the highest BABIP, which is, again, batting average on balls in play allowed. Basically, how unlucky you're getting in some respects. And it's interesting. He's still, as of right now, has the highest BABIP allowed of any qualified starting pitcher in Major League Baseball at 381. His career number is like 300. So, like, objectively, he is not someone who's going to allow a 381 BABIP for the whole season. Even with that, his ERA is now down to like the mid threes. And everything supporting that is even better than that. And look, in this game, 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. His last 5 starts now, Scott, 1.72 ERA, 2.34 FIP, 40 strikeouts, 8 walks. That's Chris Sale from last year. I mean, you don't want to say he's going to throw up a 1.7 ERA. That's not realistic for anybody over a large sample size, probably. But he's pitching like the Cy Young winner again for the last 5 starts.
And the stuff is just so good. He was humming 96, 97, 98 fastballs all night long in Boston. And that slider is unhittable. And Chris, I think early in the season, was leaving that slider up in the zone too much, especially on 2-strike counts, which is frustrating. but he has done such a good job of burying that ball on the back foot of right-handed hitters or starting it in the zone and then just disappearing it to lefties. It's just vintage Sale right now. And I think, God willing, and you always have to hope that he holds up health-wise, God willing, Sale's healthy this summer. I mean, he's probably going to be in the mix again for some awards at the end of the season, and the Braves are going to feel really good about their chances every fifth day when he goes out there.
Yeah, so I think it's somewhere in the middle of this and what these last 5 starts and his full season numbers. But if you said, like, knock on wood, Chris Sale stays healthy, I expect it to be like he's been recently or like he was last year. Like he looks like an ace again. And that's the big takeaway is if you were worried in early April, late March, I don't necessarily blame you. He's an older guy. Our antennas were up a little bit more than they probably would have been. We even said that on the show because of his age. But that looks to be a thing of the past. Even, Chris Sale is famously kind of prickly in a good way, very competitive guy. He's kind of refused to say that he's like, okay. Like he's like, yep, making progress, doing his Chris Sale thing. But even he's not been hard on himself in public interviews like the way he was earlier this season. I think he's feeling it again. He looks great to me, and I'm just really encouraged because look, if he's not great in the game, bring it back to Friday, he had to be great in that game. It was a low-scoring game most of the way. He outdueled Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet is awesome. The Braves got him a couple times in that outing, but Sale, that's one of those games where they didn't blow up on offense. They had to be really good pitching-wise, and Sale was the biggest reason why they won that game.
And credit to the Braves boppers in the middle of the order for supporting Sale and scoring just enough until the Boston bullpen just completely imploded in the 8th inning. But back-to-back homers from Matt Olson, who had a fantastic weekend at Fenway, and a homer from Sean Murphy, who, I mean, it's crazy that the Braves can just kind of interweave Baldwin and Murphy right now and really not miss much of a beat. And then the Braves, they held it. They made that 2-number stand up. Sale did a great job of navigating Boston's lineup. And then they were, I mean, it was funny this weekend. The Braves kept on walking and loading the bases with walks. And that was such a sight for sore eyes because this team, we've lamented the fact that they have just swung themselves out of so many innings, so many rally opportunities. And they were very patient this weekend against a Red Sox team that really struggled to throw strikes at times, and those a couple extra insurance runs late, especially with the way the bullpen has had to be taxed lately. I think everybody breathed a little bit better.
Yeah, you're right. And it was one of those nights where I was kind of chuckling because the combination of Chris Sale and then Matt Olson and Sean Murphy kind of carrying you to a win was not social media's delight. I wouldn't say everyone's rooting for the Braves, of course. I'm being tongue in cheek, but Murphy and Olson get piled on a lot, and those guys had big nights at a good time. But yeah, you mentioned it. They had this 4 consecutive walk run that led to a run at the end of that of the end of the game. A little bit of insurance, and Iglesias wasn't great on Friday night. Like he gave up another. By the way, speaking of BABIP luck, if you look at Rice Sale's numbers, and we won't dive into those on this podcast, this is for another day. He's getting BABIP to death, man. It's actually kind of hilarious. Maybe he's due for that because he's been pretty lucky with BABIP the last couple of years, if you were to be objective about it. But man, another how many infield singles, how many fisters to the right spot can happen against Raisel Iglesias? It's happening every time.
Yeah, early in the season, the home run ball was the real problem for Raisel.
Agreed.
And now he's still giving up homers. He gave up a homer maybe 10 days ago in that Red series. That was painful. And no one's saying Raisel has figured it out. But there are some things to make you believe that Raisel is on the right path. And Braves analyst CJ Nitkowski tweeted at least a couple days ago, but I'm sure you can find it on his Twitter account. CJ was talking about the movement of Raisel's pitches and his slider, which is a really important pitch, and that the movement, location, command has been better recently. And even if he's been running into some bad luck, I'm pretty optimistic that Raisel is going to figure it out, even if he's getting to that age and that career, part of his career where there's not a ton of really good relievers in their late 30s.
I am also cautiously optimistic. Like you said, I'm also not saying everything is perfect because it's definitely not. I also am more the way he's pitching recently. I'm glad you mentioned CJ, who's again, if you didn't know, a former major league pitcher who knows what he's talking about with pitching much more than we do. But him pointing to that, also just the eye test some of the data, it looks better to me than it was before. But we'll see. The results have to follow, and we'll leave it there for now on Rysel.
I just want to say, before Arena Club, if you were trying to very actively buy, sell, trade, it was very complicated and used a lot of mail that was unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to do it, but I'm glad we have Arena Club now because it's a one-stop shop for everything card related.
It is. And right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or your first card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL. If you're a collector, you've got to check out Arena Club. Go get after it.
Let's do our best to talk about Saturday's game in relatively tidy fashion. I'm talking to myself more than anything, Scott, right now. I'm telling myself on the podcast, let's not go super long about Saturday. If we had done a podcast 24 hours ago, and I said this on Twitter, I was honestly surprised that a game like that happened on Saturday instead of Sunday. We have a long record of these weird things happening to us on Sundays. And maybe it's just because we're the main characters in our own story, Scott. But it was one of those losses that was like really pretty brutal. And we've tried intentionally on this podcast episode to talk about how good the vibes are. And I mean that 100%. They went 5-2 this week. In the moment, Saturday night, nobody was having fun. That was a brutal experience. Fortunately, they won the game today, so we were able to kind of smile on and do this podcast. But let's talk about the game that was seemingly in hand with a 5-0 lead, 6-2 lead, and then it got away from them on Saturday.
So we'll hit the positives to start this. It's funny. The Saturday's game was really shaping up to be a good one. It was the first time since April 29th, which was the second game of the series against the Colorado Rockies, that the Braves scored 6 runs or more. And it looked like the blowout was probably going to happen relatively early because the Braves were up 5-0. And then even once Boston chipped away, the Braves did a good job of battling back and made it 6-2. And everything was just kind of good and dandy. And then it just all went to hell with the bullpen and Brian Snitker. And I guess for the next couple minutes, we will, well, we should say one more positive note here because we've talked about Drake Baldwin a couple times. Drake Baldwin, like, this dude is unbelievable. I understand it's been 2 months of his career, but he goes up there, and I'm not saying that Drake Baldwin is Freddie Freeman, first ballot Hall of Famer Freddie Freeman, but doesn't he kind of look like Freddie up there? He has elite bat control, incredible hand-eye coordination. As we saw on Saturday, he can turn on a ball and hit it 415 feet with a ton of exit velocity down the right field line. We've seen him hit homers to the opposite field. And then he can also just like poke his bat out there on an 0-2 count and drop a ball into the outfield for a single. Drake Baldwin is so impressive. He played both Saturday night and Sunday afternoon, which was interesting. How do you keep him out of the lineup? And the answer is because Sean Murphy has also been awesome.
Right.
And is probably a top 3 defensive catcher in baseball right now. It's a non-problem, but it's every night when Baldwin goes out there, something good happens. Multiple times, usually.
Yeah, and Snitz said the same thing. Like, we don't have to overdo this now because I know we talked about it on our last show this week. So did Sean and Steven. It is a non-problem, like you said, but it's going to keep being a storyline when he's hitting like this. I mean, you pulled this number. He has a WRC plus of like well over 200 for about the last 6 weeks. It's like a ludicrous, and granted, the sample's not enormous, but man, he looks the part, like you said. The numbers tell the story of that. I shared this number on social media before we started recording. I'll say it now. Murphy came back on April 8th from the injury. People kind of already forgotten about, but that was like 6 weeks ago. Since that day, I did a query at Fangraphs. 2 of the top 4 catchers in all of baseball since the day Murphy came back are on the Braves roster. And I added this caveat. That's already impressive enough, right? 2 of the top 4, not in the National League, in all of baseball. That's a crazy thing to have, that catcher in particular. But also, that's with no DH time. Ozuna's been playing the whole time. So, like, they're not even playing extra positions. Like, a lot of times there's some catcher fuzzy math with primary positions where, like, guys will play first base. They also play DH. These guys they're only playing catcher, and they're still, while splitting time, 2 of the top 4 catchers in baseball over 6 weeks. That's ludicrous. And also speaks to how good Murphy's been quietly, but Baldwin's been ridiculous, like completely ridiculous. Obviously, he isn't going to be this because nobody's ever been this. Like, honestly, if he was this player, he would be we use the joke, first ballot Hall of Famer territory. He's going to cool off to some degree, first time through baseball, all that stuff. But all the fundamentals look awesome, and it's been huge. I mean, to have that from catcher, it is by far the most positive thing about that night. I mean, you got the home run from Olsen and Ozuna too, but Baldwin homers is a good opportunity to maybe push against the negativity of the rest of this game by just again spotlighting how ludicrous the catcher spot's been, because it's been a huge strength, and no one else has that in baseball. No one.
Yeah, you want to look at the underlying numbers for Drake Baldwin. Everything is encouraging. Go look him up at Baseball Savant. Basically, everything in Drake Baldwin's profile tells you this is very real. And even defensively, you always wonder a little bit about catching prospects when they come to the majors. There is so much stuff both behind the scenes and on the field defensively that catchers have to do. And Baldwin grades out really well, other than I think he has a couple pass balls, which are going to knock him down in the eyes of the metrics. But he's a really good arm, too. Seems like every night Baldwin throws a runner out at second base. So he is a truly well-rounded catcher at a position where you really don't come by a lot of offense. And the Braves have 2 of the 5 better hitting catchers in the game. And it's going to be a fascinating storyline over the summer. What the breakdown is, what the playing time is. Can Baldwin even come close to? He's not going to do this all summer long. I don't think.
I hope he does, but yeah.
Me too. Obviously. I mean, Drake Baldwin has been Aaron Judge. Statistically speaking, he has the same numbers as Aaron Judge, who's probably going to go down as one of the, 15 best hitters in baseball history. At least his peak of the last 5 years for Judge is up there with basically any peak in all of 130 years of baseball. I'm not saying Drake Baldwin is Aaron Judge or Freddie Freeman, but he is so good. And every time he comes to the plate, you feel like something good is going to happen.
Okay. With that out of the way, let's get to the not so fun stuff from Wednesday. We did our job, everybody. We did the positives from Saturday. I should say not Wednesday. I don't know why I said Wednesday. From Saturday. The pitching was a mixed bag until the end, and it was a negative bag. So Grant Holmes ends his outing with 6 innings and 2 earned runs. I don't know about you. He did not pitch that well. The numbers, and obviously in the end, you'll take 6 innings and 2 runs all day long. But we like to do process on this show. He did not pitch well enough to justify those numbers. And by the way, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, got hit hard. He got lucky, and the Braves were up 4 runs because he got a little bit lucky. But we should at least stop and acknowledge that he wasn't probably as good as the numbers indicated.
Grant Holmes, really good the first time through.
Awesome.
And
all year, by the way. His splits, I think he has a sub-2 ERA the first time through the order this year. And then after that, it's not as pretty.
3 of the first 4 batters of the game, strikeouts. He's like, wow, this is the best I've seen Grant Holmes all season. And then the second time through and the third time through were not nearly as pleasant. Only 2 strikeouts the rest of the way. You mentioned the walk numbers, and there was a lot of loud, hard contact too from Boston. I think we said it in our Hammer Territory DM group chat that it was a miracle. Semi-miracle. Boston only scored 2 runs against Holmes. It looked like it was going to hold up, and then there was now this kind of infamous bullpen blow-up, which maybe cost the Braves a sweep.
Yeah, so let's talk about it relatively quickly. I think I'll start here. Before we knew that 3 of their top 4 relievers were unavailable, I was a lot more mad about what happened, process-wise. Then it went from mad to confused, I would say. Not still frustrated, but not quite as enraged. I was really mad in the moment, more mad than I usually would get in May. But just the short sample here is that apparently Iglesias, Daysbel Hernandez, and Dylan Lee were all unavailable at the same time. Iglesias had pitched 2 days in a row. It would have been his 3rd. That makes total sense. That's very normal that he'd be unavailable. That's one guy. The other 2, less normal. Daysbel had pitched the day before, but before that, he had not pitched for 3 days. But Brian Sticker apparently did not want to pitch Daysbel on back-to-back days, that's concerning to me on a number of levels. I don't know if there's any story behind that, but that was weird to me. I don't know. It's maybe he just didn't feel great or something like that. And Stitt did say it was there's unavailable, and then there's like unavailable. And he said basically like emergency only. Like it wasn't like he wasn't in uniform. Like he could have pitched, but they didn't want to use him. That's a little weird. The weirdest one is Dylan Lee. Dylan Lee had not pitched on Friday. And when they said it was unavailable, I'm like, is he hurt? Like, what's going on with Dylan Lee? Was there a family thing, a personal thing? No, we don't know. But Dylan Lee pitched today. So he's not hurt. That's a good thing. He's not hurt. Looked fine today. But that was the one I just don't understand Hernandez is frustrating that he wouldn't be able to pitch 2 days in a row. I'm not a medical expert, whatever. Lee not being available on Saturday was like the point where I'm pulling my hair out, because we won't go through every single machination, but you end up, when you have your 3 of your top 4 guys unavailable, you're suddenly pitching guys that you don't want pitching in a pretty high leverage spot.
Yeah. And I'll say this. I'm going to make a small defense of Brian Snitker, and then we're going to criticize his decisions. I'm growing, Brad. I don't usually do this, but this was the 16th game in 16 days. That is not easy to manage. And it is especially not easy to manage when seemingly every single night you are playing a 1-run baseball game. The Braves lead the majors in 1-run games. That is difficult. It really taxes your bullpen. But I don't know why Dylan Lee was not available, especially when you look at Boston's lineup. They have 4 really, really, really good hitters. 3 of them are lefties.
Correct.
So even if Dylan Lee was like, I'm all right, but I don't feel great, why wouldn't you still go to Lee there? Or I can't believe I'm going to say this. I would have gone to Dylan Dodd.
I agree.
Against the 3 of the top 4 hitters in Boston's lineup are left-handed, as we said, and they were due up in the biggest moment of the game. And he went with Pierce Johnson, who did not look good at all. And that's a really tough spot to bring Pierce in, who has been good this season.
Yeah.
But that was just, it was bad bullpen management. And I mean, I was really frustrated for a Saturday game in May. I was about as amped up as I get for regular season baseball games.
Our text chain was lively between the 2 of us. And also our colleagues, Steven and Sean. Again, in an effort to not do the playoff length episode, we won't go through all of the machinations, but that encapsulates our feelings. It went from enraged to merely confused, I would say, for me. The idea was to go to Pierce Johnson for what was going to be a 4-out save, because he was the guy they were saving to use at the end of the game. I mentioned the 4 guys that out of the 3 of the 4 that were, the 4th is Pierce Johnson, who's been really good this year. He was obviously not good in this outing, but he's been great. In fact, he came into the night with a 2.16 ERA and a 1.85 FIP. People were like, why is Pierce Johnson? Like, Pierce Johnson was their best available reliever that night. That's why he was pitching. Before that, you get into De Los Santos, who looked awful when he came in. We won't do the Bummer thing that we've done 100 million times. Bummer, although I will tee you up to make your one observation. Bummer, I will speak for myself, I have defended Bummer's BABIP issues. His stuff is not playing in the same way that it was before. And if that's going to continue, he isn't the same, even though by the way, he still has great peripherals, which is crazy to me, but that's concerning. So what did you kind of gather there on Bummer?
I think with Bummer, one, no matter what happens, he never has a quiet, calm inning.
Impossible.
Sometimes it's his fault. Sometimes it's not.
Yep.
Verdugo had a horrible throw home.
What is he doing on that play?
Like high school kids, middle school kids know to hit the cutoff man because it allowed the runner to advance. There was the horrible error by Austin Riley against the Nationals on, I think, Wednesday when the Braves blew it. Obviously, that's not Bummer's fault. Riley should have that ball. So there's always something with Bummer. But the concern, and we are not defending his performance because it was pretty bad.
Yeah, he didn't look good.
But the fastball and sinker that he throws, the velocity is down about 2 miles an hour. And that wipeout slider sweeper that he throws, the velocity is also down almost 2 miles an hour. So that is cause for concern for a guy the Braves have under contract for another year and a half.
Yeah, we'll save that topic for later on. But one of those restructures that Alex seemingly did because they kind of ran out of money along the way might come back to bite them on Bummer. We'll come back to that at a later date. De Los Santos, we mentioned before. Montero opens the 8th inning. I don't want to speak for you. I will share my thoughts and then throw it to you. Even with everything we just said about who was unavailable on Saturday, I still don't understand why you get to Rafael Montero in a 2-run game in the 8th inning, personally.
No idea. And Rafael Montero is getting very close to Eddie Rosario territory.
I don't think he's as bad as Eddie Rosario, but I'm with you. I understand. I understand the point you're making anyway.
You have to take the club out of the bag. You have to take the toy away from the 3-year-old.
Boy, he got. I just saw my notes. He allowed 3 straight batted balls of 102 miles an hour or harder to begin his outing. The first 3 batters he saw.
Yeah.
On Saturday. That's bad, folks.
It's not good. I have zero confidence in Montero. If I had to bet a nickel, I'm guessing that Montero will have a sore something when they want to bring Craig Kimbrell up.
Well, it'll be either him or De Los Santos would be my guess. I mean, maybe do we? Okay, so let's do this now. I thought it was a little bit funny, not in a bad way, but apparently Scott Blewett is Mariano Rivera, according to Braves fans. Because I get it. Blewett's done a great job. We praised him a lot on our most recent episode. He's earned it. He's pitched very well with the Braves. But I thought it was hilarious that people were like clamoring for Scott Blewett as if he's like the shutdown reliever. Maybe he is. I just don't think that's probably going to be a reality. But
hey,
just to illustrate the difference, I'm saying like Montero is so untrusted and De Los Santos is so untrusted that fans were like, give me Scott Blewett or give me death. Was basically the feeling on Saturday night.
Absolutely. Yes. Is Scott Blewett prime John Smoltz or Mariano Rivera? No. But 9th inning, tie game, World Series Game 7. I would take Scott Blewett 10 times out, more than 10 times out of 10. I would take Scott Blewett 100 times out of 10 before Rafael Montero, who has one of like 2 outcomes. He either walks you or he gives up a 109 mile an hour rocket ship. There is a reason that the contending Houston Astros voluntarily paid $8 million to get Montero off the roster. Contending teams generally are not selling good players in April. So I think you have to pull the plug. If they want to DFA Montero, I would be fine with it. If they want to throw him on the injured list for a few weeks just to preserve some kind of depth, sure. And I don't think anybody should expect Craig Kimbrell to come up and be 2020 or 2012 Craig Kimbrell. But I would take Kimbrell all day long over Montero at this point, or at least see what Craig has. Yeah. Because, I mean, we know what Montero has.
Yeah, it's more of that. I mean, and I do understand people clamoring for Kimbrell after what they've seen. And I agree with the urging that we're trying. I don't think Kimbrell is Kimbrell that people remember anymore. But still, I think that he'll be getting a shot at some point. We'll see. And I want to just reemphasize one more time. The Braves bullpen has actually been totally fine this season. They're 13th in Major League Baseball in ERA. It's not good. I'm not saying it's good, awesome, but given what people's fears were about the bullpen and given what the vibes have been at times about the bullpen, to be honest, including from us, you look up and they have about a league average bullpen. It's true. It's just the numbers say what they say. I know it's hard to believe for everybody, but even including that, by the way, that includes Saturday night and all that blow up. Like even with that, they're 13th in ERA. They're like 15th in FIP. Like it's not good, but it's not a disaster. Like it's to date, it has not been a disaster. Maybe it will be in the future, but it hasn't been yet.
I think in my mind, I am spoiled by just how good this bullpen was last year.
Agreed.
Everybody had a defined role. Like, Brad, you are the 7th inning man when the Braves are leading. Or Brad, you are the 6th inning guy when the Braves are losing. Or Brad, you are the 9th inning guy when the Braves are up by 2. There are no defined roles in this bullpen, which is kind of mind-numbing and frustrating on a nightly basis. And we'll never know. But I still don't get why the Braves did not add to this bullpen. Hopefully, this can be shades of 2019, where Alex Anthopoulos had to go out at the trade deadline and added 3 really good relievers. I think that's probably the path we are heading towards in 2025.
I agree. And maybe Holmes ends up there, all kinds of machinations that we'll talk about if we need to talk about them. Let us move on to Sunday and talk about some more upbeat baseball in an effort to make this podcast less than an hour and a half on a Sunday evening. Sunday's game was a lot of fun. I got to be honest with you, Scott. The vibe, as we alluded to earlier, would have been a lot different if Sunday had gone worse, but it went very well. A 10-4 victory. The first time the Braves scored 10 runs since the home opener a long, long time ago in early April. So they have not scored 10 runs very often. The lineup was awesome. 16 hits, 7 walks. Everyone doing the right things. They took the lead early on. They added to it. Even though I will say they had a couple opportunities to break it really wide open, and they didn't take them early on. They finally did it eventually. But man, hard to nitpick anything with the offense in this game. It was pretty awesome all the way through.
Yeah, great day for the lineup. And the Braves needed a game like this where pretty much everybody ate. 16 hits, 7 walks, only 7 strikeouts as a team. Everyone in the lineup had a hit besides Michael Harris, who did walk twice, which is really encouraging. And it was not just like one big inning. I mean, the Braves were basically involved offensively every single inning. And you mentioned, I mean, they could have had even more. We don't want to be too greedy here because 10 runs is a lot. But, I mean, there was a rocket from Austin Riley with the bases loaded that turned into a double play that Alex Bregman made a crazy catch on and double play ball. I mean, the Braves could have had 12 runs, 14 runs. Matt Olson had a ball that defied physics and bounced off the top of the wall 340 feet away
Back in.
and then came backwards. That's weird. Yeah, I mean there was a lot. I think the Braves had an expected batting average today of like 475 or something crazy,
Which is crazy.
Yeah. Brian Bayo had some regression coming, and the Braves hit him hard. Old friend Sean Newcomb kind of ate it for Boston.
Yeah.
Newcomb was actually, I mean, good for Sean for still being in the majors, but the Braves, the second time through the lineup against Newcomb, Marcelo Zuna hit a ball out of the ballpark for the second time this weekend. It was just a really good day for this team offensively, and hopefully they can build on that this upcoming week.
Yeah, I actually just lost count. I was trying to count the amount of 100-mile-an-hour or harder batted balls in this game for the Braves. It's a very long list, like a dozen plus. They hit the crap out of the ball today. That was a lot of fun. Spencer Schwellenbach pitched very well outside of about 10 minutes. And I mean that actually. Like, he pitched very well. Honestly, he probably could have kept going. I was actually kind of confused why he didn't start the 8th because his pitch count was very low and they're up big. But 7 innings, 1 walk, only 3 strikeouts. But he basically allowed a 1-2-3 grand slam sequence, and that was it. That was the entirety of Boston's production in the game. Obviously, you don't want to excuse that. The Braves did lose the lead, and we were doing our darndest to be as angsty as possible offline. But kudos to the offense for picking him up. But that, aside from that little window, it was like what you want to see from Schwelly.
I thought Spencer was really good. You said it perfectly. Outside of those 10 minutes. And that can happen in baseball. That's why it's such a difficult game, especially in Fenway Park, where you have all those weird dimensions all over the place. But if you take out that 4th inning, Schwellenbach was awesome. And the stuff looked pretty good. He continues to leave a little bit, not a little bit, a lot of it, too much in the zone.
I was going to ask you exactly this. I was going to say, okay, Scott, if there's one thing that you can nitpick about Spencer Schwellenbach, he just like can't miss the zone. It's hilarious. Yeah. Like, most guys have control issues and that they start walking people. Schwelly just like doesn't know how to miss. And I mean that in a nice way, but he's going to have to figure out how to miss a little bit more or a little bit, at least further off from a lot of middle with Schwelly, which you don't love that.
And it's funny because over the years, we have watched so many pitching prospects not throw enough strikes.
Mm-hmm.
Those Sean Newcomb starts, Ian Anderson, Touki Toussaint, go down the list.
Oh, that was mean-spirited for my guy Touki.
I know. I love Touki. I'm still a believer. But, it's weird because most young pitchers don't have great command. And Schwellenbach, like, it's almost like he's robotic in that he has to throw strikes.
Yeah.
And even when he gets ahead, like 0-1, 0-2, he's still not burying pitches down in the zone. And even if the ball is close enough to the strike zone, he needs to get it even farther away, which again is a bizarre thing to say because the name of the game is throwing strikes and getting outs. But this was only the 31st start of Schwellenbach's career. It's basically been a full calendar year now that he's been pitching. That's a full year worth of starts. obviously you take all day long the pitcher who throws too many strikes and has really good stuff than the guy who has good stuff but just has spurts where he just cannot throw a strike.
It's true. And even today, like just some, I don't want to say unlucky because it's his fault, but like some poor sequencing. Like he really only allowed one smashed baseball and have to be with the bases loaded to a, and also even the sequencing having Devers be up in that spot, their best hitter. It's like kind of a bad, anyway, he pitched well other than that little hiccup. They didn't, they were losing briefly in this game. We should say that they were down 4-3 after that swing. And it was like, oh man, they're really going to do this again. 3-0 lead, all those things, but the offense picked it up. We alluded to it, but just to say it out loud, Michael Harris walks twice today. He's now walked 6 times in the last 10 games, which isn't crazy for anybody else. But for Michael, that's a huge step forward. Don't want to jinx it, but hey, would you look at this? When his process is better and he takes more pitches, it takes some walks, his other stuff looks better. It's like almost like it's science to some degree. We love Michael, but it's not a coincidence. Like, take some walks, man. We're good.
Take some walks. I thought Ozzy Albies also had a couple of walks this weekend.
Yep.
Love that. Great sign. Get on base, guys, especially for 2 guys who need power to get them home a lot of the time. And there has not been a ton of power from Harris and from Albies in the early going. Just keep doing it, man. Keep working the count, make the pitcher work deep into the count, draw walks. It's only going to help. It was really encouraging. Maybe not like Michael Harris walking that much over the last 10 days is maybe not going to be like the 1A headline of a podcast.
No.
But I'm glad we mentioned it because that is, one, something we've talked about a lot of his, and is really the one thing holding Michael Harris back from being just a otherworldly baseball player is the plate discipline and the on base. And the last 10 days have been a really good sign in the right direction.
You mentioned Ozzy. Ozzy had that streak that we talked about a few days ago when you and I talked about. I think he was like 0 for 30 at one point. Last 6 games, he's hitting all 6. And a few walks, and he's showing some signs. Not just destroying the ball, but 2 hits in the game on Tuesday, a hit on Wednesday, a hit on Thursday, a hit on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 today, plus a walk. Like, he's just been productive now for about a week, which little things, just incremental improvement, and that leads to everything else. Last note on the game today, we alluded to it earlier, but Dylan Lee pitching today created a bit of a stir. The defense here is that when he started warming up, they were only up by 3. And I'm pretty sure that's why he went into the game, because he'd already been warming up. But the synergy of him not being available last night when they badly needed him, and then him pitching in a 10-4 game today, was not lost on anyone, I don't think.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Twitter was blowing up, and I get it. Just on the surface, it's very odd when you have a bullpen implosion 18 hours before, and then you pitch Lee in a 10-4 game. But I got it. Dylan Lee was warming up when it was 7-4, and you were facing the very top of Boston's order. 3 out of 4 lefties due up. I get it. Like, if
and off day tomorrow too. Like, you can be aggressive.
So sure.
And at least, and what was a good indicator to me was that Snit did throw Blewett in the 9th, up 6. Like, if he had gone to Iglesias or something on like up 6, I'd have been like, all right, what are we doing here? Yeah. But I really do. I'm convinced now that because they went to Blewett in the 9th, Lee only pitched because he had warmed up. That was why he went to the game. So I'm good.
Yep, exactly. And sure, if we could do the magic clock and go back in time, you would have had Dylan Lee pitch Saturday, and then you would have had Dylan Dodd or Scott Blewett cover 2 innings on Sunday, but can't always do it. We try to be at least somewhat fair to Brian Snitker, even if Saturday was a real stinker. But hey, 2 out of 3 against a pretty good Red Sox team. Really, there's a lot of parallels between the Braves and the Red Sox this season. They're not a bad team. And if you want to tell me the Red Sox are going to be a postseason team at the end of the day, I would believe it. And I think the Braves actually see Boston again in a couple of weekends at home. So
soon, yeah.
We'll keep seeing them. Yeah. So, hey, great start. Braves did a great job on Sunday, especially when they went down after the Grand Slam. It was like, here we go again. We're going to blow another lead. But no, the offense was awesome. The pitching staff did a really, really good job. It was basically perfect outside of those 10 minutes for Schwallenbach.
They were resilient. Okay, Scott, let's look ahead a little bit. Not a whole lot of news. We mentioned Kimbrel is getting closer. He pitched twice in a row. That was a step he had to take. Really the only news outside of the Strider and Acuna updates is Kimbrel, so nothing else really to add there. Let us talk about the upcoming National Series. We just saw the Nationals a few days ago. The Braves are off on Monday. First time in 17 days they've been off. May 1st was their last update. Tomorrow is May 19th. So it's been a while. A little bit of a breather. I'm sure everybody will be thrilled about that. Yeah. And then it's 3 in Washington after that. And they just beat the Nats 3-1 in the series. The Nats are not a great team. They're not Rockies bad, though. They're a competitive team. They have a bad bullpen, which was showing up in that series previously. What are you looking for over the next couple days?
Well, I'm sure for one, the players are just thrilled to get an off day on Monday.
Yeah.
It was also really easy travel going from Boston to DC. So that's nice. So hopefully everybody can just get away from baseball, unplug, get some rest, get some relaxation, because 17 games, 17 days is quite a bit. But hey, let's keep building. Let's get another series win against the Nationals. It's going to be similar pitching. Of course, Spencer Strider on Tuesday against lefty Mitchell Parker, who pitched a week ago. It'll be AJ Smith-Shawver against Trevor Williams on Wednesday, which is a rematch of last week's final game in the series. And then Thursday is a dandy. It's Chris Sale against Mackenzie Gore, who is off to a really good start this season. Gore has good stuff. And of course, we know how well Sale has been pitching. So that's a really fun matchup between a couple of the better lefties of the National League this year.
Yeah, I'm looking this up to make sure I'm not. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, Mackenzie Gore is currently the MLB strikeout leader this season. He has 84 strikeouts already. He is good. He is by far their best starting pitcher as far as talent and all the things concerned there. So that'll be a similar. He's not quite as good as Crochet, I would say, but a similar headline-grabbing matchup to what we just saw with Sale and Crochet on Friday, with Sale and Gore on Thursday. In the meantime, we'll have podcasts in between during the series. Probably not on Monday night unless something crazy happens, but we will cover the series as it unfolds. And another good chance for the Braves. I mean, you never want to assume anything great, but on the road against a team that you're better than, you should be trying to win the series. Just get 2 out of 3. If you can sweep, get greedy, that'd be great. But a good chance to stack another series win. If they could do that this time, it'd be 8 out of 10. We said this on the last show. Once you get over 500, you don't want to go back. And if you win the series, you're at least 2 games over, if not 3 games over. Sorry, if you're not 2 games or if not 4 games over. So just go that direction, win some games. The schedule has been a little bit more favorable in this run, as we kind of alluded to it being ahead of time. It gets a little bit more challenging after this. They come home for the Padres. The Padres, of course, beat the Braves badly earlier this season. They go to Philly, Boston, Arizona, to San Francisco. Like it's harder now for a while after this series, which means you need to win this series.
You do. And the Braves did a great job of taking advantage of the softer schedule for the better part of the last 6 weeks. But yes, the schedule gets much harder now going forward. Thankfully, you have Strider back on Tuesday. You should be getting Acuna back within, I don't know, somewhere between 3 to 10 days from now. Let's hope for all the best with Ronald. But yes, I mean, full circle, not the start to the season the Braves wanted. 5-13, 8 games below, but they're a game above 500. They've won 7 out of 9 series against, coming off a nice series win against the Red Sox. Let's keep building on it. Let's not have a setback against the Nationals and try to take 2 out of 3 against a team you probably should take 2 out of 3 against.
We are fully in agreement about that. Well, Scott, in an effort to be under an hour of actual recording time, let's get out of here, shall we? Anything to add? And if not, where can folks, I'm going to be new to the podcast, follow all of your live musings elsewhere?
Nothing to add, Brad. Nice to see you on this Sunday evening, deep into the night on the East Coast. I am at Scott Coleman 55 on socials if you want to follow there for all the fun. And as Brad said, we will have a whole bunch of shows coming this upcoming week, win or lose, good or bad. We're here, we talk about it, and we appreciate everybody tuning in and supporting the show.
We do tend to just show up and talk about baseball, no matter what happens, good or ill. Please follow the show and subscribe anywhere you check out your podcast. That could be YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome there. Like, subscribe, comment, etc. If you're an audio listener, I tend to be an audio listener to podcasts personally. Apple, Spotify, all those places. We are all of them. Follow us on social media as well at Hammer Territory. Check out the entire Foul Territory network of podcasts. Stay tuned. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you all next time.